Dear students, today the topic of our lesson is Break, Break, Break. It's a poem written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. The learning objectives of today's lesson: to enable the students to improve their vocabulary, to know about the poet, to know about the background of the poem, and to write its theme and to paraphrase it. First, I'm gonna read this poem. Break, break, break on thy cold grey stones, O sea, and I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Oh, well for the fisherman's boy that he shouts with his sisters at play. Oh, well for the sailor lad that he sings in his boat on the bay. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill. But oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. Break, break, break at the foot of thy crags, O sea, but the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back to me. About the poet, this famous poem, Break, 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 was written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Tennyson was appointed Poet Laureate of England in 1850. He wrote a great many poems during his lifetime. Now let's talk about the poem. This poem is difficult to understand if we don't know who it is that the poet is referring to. Tennyson had a dear friend called A.H. Hallam, who died at a young age. After Hallam's death, Tennyson was very sad. He wrote a long poem called In Memoriam, in which he showed how dearly he loved his friend and how much he missed him. Break, Break, Break was written with his friend in mind. This poem is an elegy that describes Tennyson's feelings of loss after Arthur Henry Hallam died and his feelings of isolation. Now the key words and their meanings. The first is I would. Here it means I wish. Crags. It means steep rocks. Heaven. It means a place of rest and safety. Oh, well for. It means it's all right for. Utter. Utter means speak. Lad. Lad means a boy. Bay. Bay means an area of water protected by land on three sides. Stately. It means impressive or grand in size. Tender. It means gentle, loving or kind. The theme of the poem. The poem describes the feelings of loss. Alfred Lord Tennyson composed this poem 2 years after the death of his close friend and fellow poet, Arthur Hallam. He is standing on the rocky seashore and writing this poem. The poem's speaker laments his death. It is an elegy to Hallam and has strong feelings of melancholy and nostalgia. Now the paraphrasing of the poem stanza by stanza. Stanza 1. Break, break, break on thy cold grey stones, O sea, and I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Paraphrasing. Strike or crash against the rocky shore again and again. I wish to have the ability to express my deep sad thoughts which come into my mind. Stanza 2. Oh, well for the fisherman's boy that he shouts with his sister at play. Oh, well for the sailor laird that he sings in his boat on the bay. Paraphrasing. It is good to see a fisherman's son who is shouting and playing with his sister. It is good for the young sailor who sings while sailing through the bay. Stanza 3. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill, but oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. Paraphrasing. There are grand ships sailing through the bay. They are passing into heavenly destinations. Here, even the grand ships doesn't distract the speaker from his memory. I remember the touch of the hand of one who no longer exists, whose voice has gone silent forever. Stanza 4. Break, break, break at the foot of thy crags, O sea. But the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back to me. Paraphrasing. O waves, crash against the cliffs along the shoreline again and again. The loving happiness of the past, of the previous days, will never return to me. Now, questions and answers. Question 1. Who is the poet addressing in the first stanza? Answer. The poet is addressing the sea in the first stanza. Question 2. Why cannot the poet say what is in his mind? Answer. The poet cannot speak due to the grief he feels. He does not find words which can express his pain. Question 3. What does the poet wish for in the third stanza? Answer. He wishes for the chance to hear his dead friend's voice and to touch his hand. Question 4. Who in the poem is having a pleasant time? Answer. The fisherman's son, daughter, and the sailor boy are having a pleasant time. Question 4. Who in the poem is having a pleasant time? Answer. The fisherman's son, daughter, and the sailor boy are having a pleasant time. Question 5. Is the poem a happy one or a sad one? Give reasons. Answer. The poem is a sad one because the poet misses his dead friend. He is unable to express his grief. Question 6. Why do you think the poet uses the sea and the waves especially to contrast with the feelings that he has? Question 6. Why do you think the poet uses the sea and the waves especially to contrast with the feelings that he has? Answer. The sea is a useful symbol in the poem because it can be used to contrast the awesome power of nature with the speaker's emotional weakness and vulnerability. In other words, the poet uses the sea and waves because the sea and waves can pour out their anger, but he cannot. The poet's grief is as strong as the waves of the sea. Dear students, this is the end of the lesson, and I hope that you would have a clear idea about the whole poem. Thank you very much. Goodbye.